All right. Well, as you may remember, I'm from the Netherlands. Um, I've been a monk since 2005, and I have been, oh, it's very early, huh? And I've been practicing in this tradition since that time. And right now I'm living in Holland. We have a former Catholic church, which we made into a temple. If you like, I can show you a picture. Would you be interested? I guess that's a yes. So let's just maybe
Yes.
show you a picture. We have a nice picture from an aerial photo, in fact. Let me see if I can show it here. Yeah, this is it. Yes. Can you see this? It's nice, huh?
Or the solar energy being the basic form of energy, maximum impact and benefit will happen at this time. This is also at the time of Uttarayana, so it is a time of resurgence, time of blossoming. Tropical countries,
So I'm going to
also
mute you for
time
a minute
maximum
because
flowers
there
are
is
there.
some background noise. Yeah. So if you want to speak up, you can use the space button. That's most easiest because there was some background noise. So you've seen my temple. It's a former Catholic church in a nice little village. So let's just dive into it and start with the meditation together. And we can continue with any other question you'd like to ask later. Or I can talk a little bit about Buddhism if you prefer. So this is, yeah, that's true. It's a cathedral. It's not really a cathedral in the strict sense, but it's a former church, and yeah, it was supposed to be the pride of the village, and it became the local pride of the village. But the top of the church was actually never constructed, which is a story on itself. But anyway, it's a very nice building, and it's very good to have ceremonies in. Yeah, of course the what is it? The Buddha image is of course now at the center of the church. But it was actually not allowed up until the 19th century in Holland to build churches for Catholic people because the Catholics were the minority and they were not the national religion. But then in about 1850, we had a new constitution, which is actually the birth of Dutch democracy in its formal form. And then there was also a separation of religion and state. And then because of that, the Catholics were able to build their churches. So previously they had to hide their services, and then they started. So this is how this is about your question. So that's how it began. It began as a church, which was the pride of the Catholics who could finally build their churches. So with that in mind, we can start the meditation. So find yourself a good position so it's easy for you to sit like this for a long time. Make sure you feel comfortable in sitting like this. We should feel comfortable and yet alert. Let's first start by breathing in deeply and breathing out slowly. And then we start by relaxing our body and mind first, because in that way we will be able to easily guide our mind to the center. So we relax our body, starting with our eyes. We relax our eyes. We feel our eyelids relax. Then we relax our entire face, our neck, jaws, and then we relax our shoulders. We relax our arms all the way to the tops of our fingers. Then we relax our chest and abdomen. Our legs all the way to the tips of our toes. And then we relax any tension which is still remaining. But if we can't relax it, we just let it for a moment. We just leave it. We become aware of our entire body, and we become aware of how we do not have to do anything anymore. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to be alert all the time or go anywhere. We feel at ease, comfortable. Once we have been able to let go of our body, we can fully devote ourselves to our mind. Now, devoting ourselves to our mind means that we have to learn to relax deeply. We can relax deeply by learning to allow our thoughts to be. If we think of our thoughts, whether pleasant or unpleasant thoughts, as clouds in the sky, whereas we are the sky through which the clouds drift. And we feel at ease just being the sky, open, spacious, vast. Whether we have pleasant memories, frustrations, fears, or worries, or future plans, we just let them go, or in fact, we just let them be, and they will go by themselves. Our thoughts are like the clouds, and we don't have to do anything with the clouds, nor do we run after the clouds. We don't, we do not need to do anything. If we are distracted, though, we simply go back. We go back to the start. We come back to the present moment. We don't need to analyze. We don't need to. We don't need to punish ourselves or anything like that. And we feel more and more at ease. More and more at ease just doing nothing. Once we are relaxing our mind, we find that we have less and less need to do anything at all. Don't forget, we don't have to create perfection right now. We simply allow all the noise and whatever there is in our mind to be. We don't need to get fuzzy. We simply allow things to happen. And eventually, all good things in meditation come to us when we stop searching for them. We simply sit and we are. Eventually, sitting like this, we come to the point where we come back to the center within. Now, some teachers will call this the center of the body, and some teachers will call it the center space. And then some teachers will call it the final station of the mind. Whatever you're calling it, there is this place at the end of our breath. At the end of our in-breath and the start of our out-breath. You could call it the turning point of the breath, the U-turn of the mind. And as we are becoming aware again of our breath, we no longer try to control it. And we notice how our breath touches the center. And we simply become aware of the existence of the center space at the end of our breath. If we find it hard to notice our breath ending, we can just go back and forth a few times. And then we finally notice the end of our breath. Now, when we meditate, guiding our mind's attention to the center, we don't need to do a lot. We simply remind ourselves of the awareness of the center space within, of the existence of it. Very softly and gently, we remind ourselves, give ourselves a little nudge, knowing that this is our center, this is the core of our being. Now, as we are meditating like this, we maintain the balance. We attempt to become aware as soon as we are distracted. We attempt to quickly become aware of that. But then again, we don't need to pin our mind down at the center. We simply give ourselves a little nudge, a little reminder every now and then. And eventually the center will grow upon us. We will get used to it, familiar with it, and eventually we can feel it. With softness, gentleness, and care, we continually remind ourselves of the core of our being. Then we gradually come to the end of this short meditation as we become aware of our senses again. For example, our body. We can feel every part of it, and we can feel the cushion or the seat on which we are sitting. And then we can also feel the room in which we are sitting, the temperature. And just before we open our eyes, we remind ourselves that we can bring the center space with us. Allow the softness of the mind to gradually continue even when our eyes are open. We then open our eyes gradually and look at the world in a slightly different way. And I will mark the end of this meditation giving a traditional chant blessing in the ancient Pali language. Sappe Buddha Palapata Paceka Nanchayang Palang Arahanta Nanchate Jenarakang Pandhami Sapaso Sapaputta Nupavena Sappha Sappasangkhanuppavena Satthaso Bhavantu Te. So, how was the meditation today?
Very good. It was very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Who was that? I didn't catch it. Okay. If you want to respond, but you don't have, you don't get through, you can always send me the chat. I mean, you can send the chat to everyone. Okay. Yeah, there was some background noise. I can imagine that. Did you hear the construction noise at the back?
Yeah.
All right. I will adjust my audio settings a little. So you won't hear it anymore. It's a little bit late, but no, that wasn't you. That was me. We have some construction going on, and not our place, but the neighbors. So I didn't actually adjust my audio settings to fit that, to protect against that. But it's okay. I guess you could hear me. Anyway, today I was asked by Lumpi Pisit or Lumpi Tam to give a little talk. He told me right now he was talking to you about the Buddha's teachings with regard to merit, or the energy of the good deeds that we do. Is there anything you'd like to ask about that, or is there anything you would like to ask about any part of Buddhism or of meditation? We have some comment from Facebook. It was good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, do you have any questions? Right now is a good moment. No questions? I'm going to go through a few of teachings that I think are important to know, but I would like to know first if any of you have ever been to a Buddhist temple before, and apart from your brief or visit to our temple in Thailand, have you ever joined any ceremonies or meditation classes in one of our temples or another temple in another tradition? I wouldn't have to need to know, just to know kind of foundation you have. So any response with regard to that question would be welcome. Okay, we have one person who went to the Oregon, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, to the center in Oregon. I've heard about that center actually. Yeah. Okay, so we have a number of people who have come to our branch centers, maybe to other temples as well. So this is an important thing to know for me. Okay. There is time. There's also a question about the time to meditate coming from Facebook. So a person called Naina Solanki on Facebook, she asks, what is the best time to meditate? Well, that depends. If you have the ability to set a good schedule for yourself, then
ขอบ
you
คุณ
can.
ค่ะ ไปหยิบมือถือเข้าซูม
I'm just gonna mute somebody here. Yeah, thank you for that. Um, so if anyone is regular, have a regular routine or a regular schedule, it's the easiest, of course. You can simply fix a time for yourself to meditate, and maybe in the morning or in the evening. Many people like to meditate for a bit in the morning before they go to work. Other people like to meditate in the evening after they brought their children to bed or something like that. This is all possible. It's certainly possible to find the right time. Of course, it's the best if you can do both morning and evening. There's also a number of people who meditate during their lunch break, but this is a little rare, and it usually requires you to have a meditation room at your work, which is not always a given. So this is some possibilities which we have. But what about those people who do not have a fixed schedule? For example, flex workers, which in Dutch language we call those people flex workers. People who are working with flexible hours, different schedules, or perhaps also working in shifts. If you are somebody who has his own business, which is not always clearly to separate online and offline, it's not always easy to say no to your customers when they come after your work hours with questions or with requests. In that case, there is a rule which the Buddha himself explained with regard to having a good motivation in meditation. He simply said, think of every good moment as a good moment for meditation. And if you can do that, then you will not postpone it. For example, as soon as you wake up and you have some time, maybe there's a question in your mind, am I going to have breakfast first or meditate first? Well, then meditate first. If you are going somewhere that day, going to your work, but you have some time left, you're thinking maybe I should prepare for work first, or maybe I should meditate first. Well, then meditate first. So this is the basic way of dealing with a flexible schedule or a difficult schedule. Whatever you have to do that day, start with meditation first. So if you cannot cannot accomplish a regular schedule, then simply start with meditation, whatever you do. And I could refer to some sort of time management theory or something, but that is not really necessary. I think you get the idea. So the Buddha actually went so far as to give all sorts of reasons why we could meditate under every circumstance. For example, if we are hungry, it's a good time to meditate. If we are full, we have already had food, then it's also a good time to meditate. If we have to go somewhere, it's a good time to meditate. If we just come back, it's a good time to meditate, etc., and so forth. And this is, of course, one way to look at it, because if we look at it this way, we will never postpone. And if we often meditate like this, then it will be easy for us eventually to continue that practice, because we'll just don't want to skip it. We'll find that it becomes an intrinsic part of our life. We do not want to skip it anymore. So we just have to start with the first step. And once we've made it into a habit, then the meditation and the joy of doing so will pick up from that. And it won't be hard to continue the habit. It may be a little bit more challenging to actually find time to meditate for hours a day if you are aspiring to do that. But just to start a daily practice is not too challenging, as long as we follow the tips that I just gave. And it may also be important to have a good place to meditate. If you have I think I talked about this previously on this with this group, that if you have a place in your house where you can meditate, and you design such a place, or at least designate such a place for yourself where you can find some space, then that's the best way, because that will be a good moment, a good place that will remind you to meditate. Many Asian people, especially East Asians, have a meditation room or a chanting room at their home. In our temple in the early 90s, we used to have a program to encourage people to have a meditation room at their home. That program is no longer continued today, but it's still something we emphasize. But I even know of people who have been very creative in finding their own meditation room. I know one guy who actually meditates in the, what do you call it? The shed, is that the right word? The shed in his backyard, the place where you normally keep stuff, like a sort of garage or something, but not just has tools, no car. Is it called a shed, Maka? Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it is called a shed. Mhm.
because this guy is kind of special. He doesn't feel cold so much because of a condition that he has. So, so he doesn't need a heater. Well, you may not want to try that at home if you are living in a cold country. But if you have, for example, I know of another guy who actually has a sauna at home, and he's no longer using that sauna, so he's just meditating in it. So we always make a little bit fun of him. We say that, our friend in this meditation cabin has just joined us, or in a meditation sauna. It's a good way to have a place. At least you should have a corner which you designate for meditation. And you may have a little picture that reminds you to meditate, or a picture of your teacher that inspires you to meditate, or something like that. All right. So this is some tip to meditate. Find the time and a place, and then you'll be there. You get there. And also very important, find friends to meditate with. Like we are joining this group today because people who are our fellow practitioners will remind us to meditate together, and they will inspire us to do so. So that was the question from Facebook. I'm not sure whether this question was really something that you people here are wondering about, but well, that was it anyway. And so I've seen that many of you have already seen several places where you've practiced meditation or where you've learned about Buddhism. So one important thing in our tradition is the idea of merit, as Lompi Pisit already mentioned and has talked about several times. So when we talk about merit or good deeds, then it's important that we realize that uh, um, there's a lot of types of good deeds in Buddhism, and how the way we look at good deeds may not be exactly the same as we would in another religion. Well, let me just give you some perspective on that before we finish. Okay, so let's just I just show you a bit of a presentation, and then maybe we can go from there. Okay, so we have a PowerPoint here in English. Maybe that will help. Okay, can you see this presentation? Okay, today's talk is about meaning in your life.
Yep.
Okay. So there's first of all, anything in Buddhism is about three types of training. Okay. So if you have these three types of training, then that's very important. Those things, everything in Buddhism comes down to these three. There's a question, but I cannot bring up the chat just now. So I'll just have to start over. Just a moment. Okay. So I'm just going to share in a different way. Sorry about that. Yeah. So it's important that before we learn about something like good deeds in Buddhism or how we practice Buddhism, that we understand that everything in Buddhism is about purpose and aim in life. So when we are um, when we are learning about aim in life, then there's different kinds of aim. The Buddha, he would always teach different things for different people depending on their interests and needs. So this is basically three kinds of aims that you can find in Buddhism, but of course, any person has his own aim. So there is the idea of, in this life, to be just a good human being, which is like a basic aim in life. Like you want to take good care of your family, make sure that your children are well fed and have a good school, something like that. It's a very basic goal. You take good care of yourself, you take good care of your family. You don't hurt anyone, very important. You do a good business. You don't make people suffer, something like that. That is the very basic principle of being a good, decent human being. This kind of things the Buddha would teach about, but it's very basic. Most of the time, he would teach more than that. He would teach how to grow good habits and character, which you might call being a beautiful human being. I mean, beautiful inside. And in this kind of things would usually uh, be considered good habits or good character that we can develop throughout many lifetimes. But even if you do not believe or you have doubts whether there are next lifetimes or reincarnation or something like that, then you can still learn about this. Develop the idea of developing good character is very fundamental, very important to Buddhism. But the highest goal in Buddhism, the highest aim is to be really a true human being, to attain the awakened mind, to attain to enlightenment, which is what we meditate for. I use the word nibbana here, but that is actually the same word as nirvana. It's just a slightly different language. So when we talk about doing good deeds, doing meritorious deeds, like for example, when people come to the temple, they give gifts to the monks or to the temple. Or when we are meditating and chanting ancient texts with wisdom, then that is also a good merit, a good karma to do. So this these different aims in life, you can find many of these aims, especially the last two. You can find these in any Buddhist temple. But in Asian temples, we find mostly the idea of good karma, being a beautiful human being, developing good karma in life, good karma, good deeds that you will bring with you in your daily life. Whereas in Western meditation centers, we emphasize most of the time it's a lot about meditating and attaining awakening and so on and so on, which is slightly different, but it's connected. So when we hear about this idea of developing good character throughout many lifetimes, it may be a bit weird for us in the West, in the many English-speaking countries. Like in this cartoon, when this little guy says to his grandfather, "Yeah, well, I didn't believe in reincarnation when I was your age either." So we have our doubts about that sometimes. But we can learn about these things and see how we can use it in our daily lives, and then we can give it the benefit of the doubt whether there's such a thing as the next life. Because the Buddha never asked anyone or uh, said to somebody, you have to believe this. We have to study about it, but we don't believe is a natural process which comes or doesn't come depending on what you observe and see. But there's kind of four kind of qualities in Buddhism which are very often emphasized and found in many texts in Buddhism, very many of the early texts. And sometimes we call this in Thai language the aim in the sky, because traditionally this is seen as the sort of qualities that will make a person into an angel, a deva, a good person, a good human being, a beautiful human being. The first one is faith, and faith in Buddhism, it's a bit of a, some people say it's like the F word of Buddhism, because in the West, we do not like to hear about it. And these days in many Buddhist countries, it's kind of become a word that is considered traditional and not very modern to speak about faith. So some people say a bit sarcastically that it's the F word in Buddhism. But faith is actually a slightly different meaning than what the word means usually in English context. So faith in Buddhism means like you have the confidence that your deeds will always bear fruits. Every action we do is important. So the word Dhamma here means Buddhism. So faith in the Dhamma, or in Buddhism, is the confidence that your deeds will always bear fruit. Traditionally, this is explained in 4 steps. You believe that there's such a thing as karma or karma. You believe that it can ripen, that it can have an effect in your life. When you do something, it will have an effect. And you believe that you have to own up to it. You have to take responsibility for every action you take. And that belief connects with the final aim of Buddhism, that is possible for every human being to grow and to finally become awakened, enlightenment. Which also connects with the idea that there's a person like the Buddha who once became enlightened. Now, as I said, Buddhism doesn't say you have to believe this or you have to sign this article of faith or something like that. It's just something we study about. But faith is important in Buddhism. But anytime the Buddha mentions faith, he would also always mention wisdom. These two are always connected. So when we start out with faith, eventually we come to truth and we no longer need faith. So what does faith mean in practice in Buddhism? Well, in practice, it means that one should do something good. You have the faith that it will help you, that it will somehow help you in your daily life. And you have the confidence that you can do that as well. It's also about faith in yourself in that way. So faith in that way is like the first step in leading a beautiful life, you could say. And it's therefore not so much about which religion you subscribe to or embrace. It's much more about what you believe is happening in your life. Or as one Westerner who ordained in Chinese Buddhism and became a teacher in Chinese Buddhism said, he wrote a book about it, in fact. He said, everything we do matters. And that is basically the positive side of it. But one teacher in America who was also a Westerner, he said, or she said, in fact, karma means you don't get away with anything. You cannot get away with anything. Well, that's a bit negative, but it basically comes down to the same thing. Everything we do, it follows us. And the Buddha, he made a comparison. He said it's just like a shadow which never leaves you. You cannot run away from your shadow, but a shadow can also be good, right? Especially if you live in India, shadow can be very nice if you have a lot of sunshine and it's very hot. But so whatever you do, this is important to know. So when in Buddhism we go to a temple, like the former Catholic Church here, we go with the idea that everything we do to support Buddhism or to support the work or support the temple, so, and we listen to the teachings or we meditate, we believe that this is something that we can take with us in our daily lives, and it will somehow connect. It will somehow attract good things. Now, some time ago, I think it was the 2000s, there was this book that came out that was really a hype for a time. It's called The Secret. Do you remember? I think you'll remember. Now, this book is actually doesn't say anything new. It's an old idea that if you often think about something, then it will somehow come to be. It's actually, it used to be a movement among American authors, American writers, and it was called the New Thought movement, based on Hinduism mostly. But The Secret, it has some basic basis of truth, you know. But in order to see your wishes and hopes fulfilled, the things you often think about fulfilled in life, you need to have some energy which we call merit, the good energy of our good deeds. So there's two things here, and I'm going to use a whiteboard, which we have here. There's two things here, and they're both very important in Thai Buddhism. There's karma, everything we do, or simply put, action. Whether we say something, whether we think something or do something, right? And that leads to merit. And merit is the energy that attracts things in our lives. So merit then attracts the results of karma, or the ripening of karma. You could also say the ripening of karma, the fruits of karma. But merit is the positive side. It's the sort of thing that attracts happiness, prosperity, success in life when things go well for you. But there's also demerit. There's also demerit, and demerit means that sometimes the things you attract create suffering. If you do something in a way that, in an intention that is wrong, to hurt yourself or others, then you attract suffering in life. Both are possible. Now, some people tell me, well, doesn't Buddhism say that there is no such thing as the duality? We don't have duality in Buddhism or something like that. This is not actually true. Duality is depends on what duality you talk about, but in Buddhism, we do think that there's two kinds of things in life, things that create suffering and things that create happiness. And the sort of things that create happiness in life are when we act on good intentions, when we act on our wisdom, when we act on generosity, when we act because we act from the wise mind. But when we are acting on the basis of things that make us suffer, then we are going to create bad karma. So there's both possibilities. And the Buddha, he would talk about those in terms of roots. If you know you do something out of hatred or out of arrogance or out of greed, then the karma is already started. But if you act out of generosity, kindness, and wisdom, then there is another kind of karma. And the mind will also feel different in both cases. So we do not need a higher intelligence in Buddhism to distinguish between good and evil, or what is right and what is wrong. It's rather more about the mind. What makes the mind better and what makes the mind worse? So when we talk about these kind of things, maybe some of those things Lompi Pisit, Lompi Tam has already talked about. But other things maybe he hasn't yet. So I'm just going to add a little bit about that. Sometimes we can say that there's a certain moral reasoning in Buddhism. And these things that I talked about, the good and the bad, we sometimes also call it wholesomeness and unwholesomeness. So I like to just finish with that thought. What is wholesome and unwholesome? So with the way we look, when you look at our mind, we can know this. And when when we do something out of greed or hatred or delusion, then we are basically creating the cause of suffering in our lives. Greed, hatred, delusion are the major families, like the negative emotions and unrealism that drives us to do something which creates suffering. And then the opposite qualities we call the wholesomeness, the roots of wholesomeness, which is the opposite of greed, of course, generosity or contentment, being content with the simple life. The opposite of hatred is when you can be kind and forgiving to others. And the opposite of delusion is when you can see the right thing, do the right thing at the right time. You know how to distinguish what is the right thing to do at a certain point. Wisdom, sharpness of mind. So this is how we can distinguish between right and wrong. And that's how we can understand about karma and merit and many of those things in Buddhism, which we talk about when we talk about building character and doing good. So I'd like to finish with that for your thought about that. Today I've been talking quite broadly and abstract maybe, because I don't know what you have learned about and read about before you joined this conversation. So if you have any questions you would like to end with, we have maybe a minute or two. No?
Anyone would like to ask anything?
We always have to leave a little bit more time when we are on Zoom because there's some delay. Or would you like to see more pictures of my former church? All right. So I'll thank you for your attention now. Yes, Adison, would you like to ask something? No, you're fine. Okay, good. So I'll see you maybe next time. Maybe if you are interested, I have also got a YouTube channel which has a lot of English videos, English language videos. And maybe you'd like to take a look. And there's a lot of, what do you call it? A lot of videos about 100 in English. I can maybe just post a link to that. Just a moment. And many of those teachings I actually did together with Lompi Pisit, Lompi Tam. And you can take a look at that. Here is the link on the chat. If you don't know where the chat is, it's just below. There is a little balloon and you can click on that. And there's a little link there. And I would also like to say that I teach in English language every second Saturday of the month at 4 p.m. Central European time. So I don't know what kind of time that is for you, but I'm just going to write it down. So that's Saturday, second Saturday of the month. Second Saturday of the month, 4 p.m. CET. And I've got a link to that as well if you are interested. So this is the link and you can join it. There is no password, but there's a waiting room. So if you want to join it, Maka also joins on that session often. And yeah, we talk about many things. So it's mostly people from the United States, but there's also a few from Nepal and other places. So thank you for your time and attention, and we'll meet again sometimes.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you, Langpi Sander.
Okay, before we leave, I have to conclude about what we learned today. So it's a little bit hard, but yeah, I would like to thank Longpi Sander about answering the question about we have to find the time, the time for meditation, the right place, and also a friend, find time and place and a friend to meditate. This is was the question he answered, and also about the merit that we have learned. That I really like the one that he said that we never, like the shadow will always follow us. It's about the merit. What we doing good, we receive good. With what we're doing bad, we receive bad. Also from the secret, the books about the universe, the law of attraction, like that. So yeah, before we leave, can we take a group photo together? I would like to invite everyone to open your camera, and then we will palm our hand, and then we make a group photo together. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. And before we leave, we will greet the monk together by saying Namaskar. Namaskar.
Namaskar, Langpi.
Thank you, Sander, for helping us. And we hope to invite you again next month. But when is it? Well, just get your schedule ready. I will pop up anytime. Just letting you know that. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. And I shared the link already. So hopefully you can check it on Facebook, and we will update this on YouTube later on. Thank you very much, and see you again next time. This Saturday we have, what's it called? We have Buddhist knowledge to replace our mind on session until the June session coming. So this coming Saturday is special course, which is about the rise and fall of the universe and the time scale, which compare to the Big Bang theory that you may have learned on the West in the science. So hopefully you come join us again in this our Zoom session, which is always on Zoom only. So see you again next time, everyone.